Just noting, guys, we are currently live streaming. Right, here's my sheet. Here we go. 7.2, done. Okay. Moving on to reports. We've got confirmation of the previous minutes. I've had a mover from Councillor Kirby, to Councillor Wilson. Any comment or conversation around the minutes? Yes, Nigel?
Yes, I did. They...
Give us a page reference.
There we go. It was, you will recall this, of course, committee resolution SSS 2023/31.
Can you give us a page reference? Oh, okay, page 14 for reference. Yeah.
Yeah, it was about the graffiti.
Oh.
And I was just wondering if there had been a response, if the letter had gone, because I can't recall seeing one. So if not, could we perhaps make a reminder?
Look, it's a relevant point to follow up on it.
Doesn't need any formal
Yep.
resolution.
How about we drop them to members' business, Nigel,
Okay.
and we just get the confirmation of the minutes.
Cool.
Done. That's a valid point. I've got a little bit to add to that conversation as well, so we can perhaps flag that for our members' business. So, is there anything specifically from a correction perspective to the minutes?
No.
And if I can have a vote on that, all those in
All right.
favour? That's passed. The acceptance is passed. Thank you very much. Right, now I'll come back to item 6, members' business, point C, members' items. Got maybe half an hour to 40 minutes if we need to, with regards to discussion on this. Around different things. So I'm just going to open it up with regards to anyone who may have an item that they want to discuss. I'm under the impression that Councillor Wilson has a couple as such.
Yep. Just around funding. So we had we had a few visits from Citizens Advice Bureau, and it seemed to me that there was a general agreement that agreement might be the wrong word, but there was a general consensus around the importance of the work they do and the relatively small amount of funding that's required. I think it was, from memory, 37,000 a year. Yeah, 37,000 I think a year, and it was over a 3-year period. But I'm just not quite sure. My understanding is we were going to move something through this committee.
My understanding was we were going to flag it during the long-term plan process.
Yes.
That was both the Citizens Advice Bureau and Age Concern.
With
regards to assistance and funding with regards to that. Sorry, Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot here. We're just talking about a little while ago. We talked to. I think we had a presentation from the Citizens Advice Bureau. But also, at the time, we talked about maybe being able to assist in some funding through the long-term plan process, picking that these organisations used to be funded through the Social Investment Fund. Is that the one? About 4 years ago, and then the structure changed in that space. I appreciate that funding's been allocated as such, but both the Citizen Advice Bureau and Age Concern basically had their funding removed with regards to rental assistance as such. Are you able to tell us whether anything's being talked to in part of the long-term plan process around this, or do we need to follow this up a little bit more aggressively as such? No,
I think we've just waiting. Sorry, I was patiently looking at the green light flashing. It's red now. I think what I can say to you is the previous conversation we've had was around the fact that we obviously have a range of grants processes in place which people are able to put applications into. And Mike, Janice and I, let's say mid to late last year, we're working through the opportunity to review those grants processes and to see if there was an opportunity to streamline some of them and to ensure that it's focused on your priorities, to do a bit of a review of that and come back to you. I think the opportunity is to look at whether we're making the most of the grants funding process we have now. And we have not proposed adding an additional funds to that through the LTP. And part of the reason for that is because we've said to you that we would maintain our service level, not increase it. And that includes with those grants allocation processes. But we can look at whether it's prioritised in the right way. So that is the action we've got to take away and come back to you on. We would come back through that process. And obviously, we're now getting a long list of people who are indicating interest in being supported to see how that might sit across the framework. That wouldn't be the decisions, because that would have to go through the process that's already in place. But it would give that close the loop effect to Councillor Wilson's question.
Nigel, you care to comment on that?
Oh, sorry, I was next. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, as I was aware, Nigel was one that asked the question in relation to that.
Yeah, I just had a follow up to that. So that sounds to me like a no to the funding for CAB, and I'm not happy with the no. So I'll do whatever I need to do to keep this going. This is really, really essential work. And what happens is if they don't do it, council will be, it'll come to council's door to do it. Just ask the staff very often that if you ring KCDC, they will put you through to CAB. They'll tell you who the appropriate person is. If they're not there, and we have to do it, it's going to cost a lot more money to do it. It's far more efficacious for us to be providing that funding. So I'm not going to stop on this one, I'm afraid.
Don't be afraid, Nigel. It's
just because council wants to change some kind of process that can take forever, it all gets very ministerish quite quickly. And in the real world, stuff is happening right now on the ground, and we need to find that funding from somewhere. Not quite sure how we do it directly through here, but maybe even for our next meeting, if I'm happy to bring a paper.
And just Chris wanted to respond to that.
Yeah, just want to clarify. I wasn't saying it was no. I was saying you need to make that collective decision about where that funding's best allocated. It won't be a staff decision. To the point that's just been raised, though, I do wonder if you would like to request an update on that work, and that could be brought back to this table. I don't think it was intended that this was going to take a long time. I think it was as part of the next steps from your decisions around the LTP that we'd be coming back to say this is some options around how we could best use the collective pot of funding, and that you'd be able to make those decisions quite quickly as you start to progress towards the end of this year and the LTP for next year.
Right, so that would put us towards the end of April, is that correct?
Yeah, it could, and I think it might be to request an update to this committee.
Okay.
And I just need to think whether it will sit there in our new structure. In fact, I think it's probably with Sonia sitting at the table, some of those areas and those grants now sit in the new customer and community group, and so it would be a report, an update from the GM on that piece of work, so that they could to advise where that's at, and just to note that SLT obviously can have a conversation about this to make sure that it's lined up and we bring it back to the table.
Can I ask council officers with regards to how we'd put a request in for that, the wording around that? No, I wasn't going to think of a recommendation, more of as suggested, an update to an update to what? A request, previous request.
I think we can, well, how about I take an action? Is that okay? I'll take an action to get an update to the next Social Sustainability Committee, and in the background we'll work out who's best placed to make that update. Is that all right? Yeah, okay, thank
Happy with that,
you.
Nigel? I appreciate that more than likely there'll be some behind-the-scenes conversations between there as well, which I'm quite happy to work with you on as well if required.
No, I think, you know, having a report back, as Chris has suggested, makes sense, because these are going to be, it comes back to the core philosophy of why we're here, who we serve, why we serve them, and that we, as we heard this morning, we've got some gaps. We've got some really big gaps, and council, and you know, we can indicate that central government shouldn't be the bastards that they are. They shouldn't be behaving the way they are, but they are behaving like that. And until they change, we have to deal with the reality of it. And so, you can continue to criticise central government, that's fine, but in the meantime, we've got people living in cars and those sorts of things, right? Yeah. So if it's within our gift to address those, then I absolutely think it's imperative that we do. Even this morning, like if, say, Tanya Barrington's position, if that position was lost, we look at, so what would be the net social cost of that? So are there more hamsters that can run faster on the wheel or not? And they're probably not, because the hamsters are all flat out right now, right? So we really need to think about that big, broader question. And I know it all equals dollars, and they've got to come from somewhere, but we've got to have those conversations as well as pipes.
And look, I would add that I think we're in a situation with the attitude, well, I should rephrase that, the mindset of this trinium will allow the flexibility for that sort of conversation as such. So I look forward to the report back. Is there anyone else who wants to comment specifically in this circle?
10 minutes, Chairman, if that's all right.
Rob.
Oh, thank you.
You know,
Thank you.
No, hang on.
No, I won't hang on. I'll just box on.
No, Rob, you will hang on. Otherwise, I'll cut you off and you won't be speaking at all.
I've got the red light.
I don't care. I'll turn it off. So if you just tie-ho for a second, you're not the chair of this meeting. I am. And I don't expect criticisms with regards to timeframes of allowing a conversation to go. That's exactly what it was, Rob.
Just general courtesy. I've been waiting 10 minutes.
Everyone's been waiting, Rob. You haven't been waiting 10 minutes. We haven't been sitting back here 10 minutes. But I'm not getting into an argument with you. I'm telling you what the situation is. Now, I specifically asked, has anyone got something they would like to comment on with regards to what's just been talked to? Yes. Do you?
I do indeed.
This is specifically for what Nigel has just talked to.
Indeed, I do.
Lovely. Look forward to hearing from you,
Okay. Speaking on behalf of the Otaki Community Board, we had our fundings cut, and we actually closed down for a wee while. We're now affiliated with Pauparamu. The community...
You're talking about the
Citizens Advice Bureau. Yeah.
You said the community board, Rob.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, because I was about to say you're not representing the community board here.
Right. Now that we're going.
So sorry, hang on. Just take a step back. Okay, we're talking about the Citizens Advice Bureau and how it was funding was cut from the Otaki. Is that correct?
Yes. Now they're with Pauparamu, and we're bereft of funding. The community have to pay the costs. I'm paying for their advertisements in the local newspaper at the moment, and they are really overburdened with giving out advice especially to senior citizens.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Big trouble at the moment. So please, can we have some steer as to when we can have funding? Because it's just not acceptable at the moment. It's not working.
Okay, so I'll respond to that. First of all, can I just get clarity? The 37,000 that's been talked about rental, did that cover Otaki as well? Yep, so I just want to get some clarity on that more than anything else. Rob, with regards to funding, we can't make a decision here. What we've asked for is the report back to come out that might give us some options for funding. And we'll work behind the scenes with regards to, with council officers, to maybe think outside the box with regards to how that might work.
Yeah, in all respect to that, it's a bit of yes minister going on. Could I go back with a definite clear steer as to when we could have some funding?
No,
or
I can't,
whatever
Rob.
Funding?
If you want to, I'm sorry, if you would like to put a bid into the long-term plan for funding for the Citizens Advice Bureau specifically, there are processes for doing that. This committee is not about being able to allocate funding because a councillor specifically asked for it to happen. There are processes that we have to follow with regards to things. So this committee can't commit funds to anything we don't have the ability to do that. That's got to go through a full council process with regards to that.
I beg
as
your
such.
pardon, I thought we were just being briefed by a senior manager as to how we could get funding.
You're asking me for this committee to specifically
Well,
allocate.
I believe that we've just been given a briefing as to how the mechanism involved for getting funding.
Can I ask for some advice from officers?
Kia ora, Rob. I think what Chris was, we've got a cache of grants that we allocate out to the community. And what was raised last year was we were going to review where that money's going and what it's looking at based on our priorities in council. And so there's kind of an element of stages here, a little bit about what our priorities are going to be set with LTP. So it's hard to say what they're going to be specifically right here and now until LTP's gone through. And I see that as one of our priorities from allocation of resourcing. Once we know what LTP looks like and what the priorities are, then we can start to review and see if our cache of grant money fits with that, basically. Yeah. So the timeframes will be based on LTP outcomes, really. Is that all right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And so it's certainly been on the. We've been talking about it for a while, and we're just waiting to get our priorities so we know what we're looking at. Is that cool? So, yes, hopefully, does that help? Yay. Yeah.
I'll make a comment, but Lawrence, did you have something in relation to what we're currently talking about?
Yes, potentially.
All right.
You go. Mine is just a question, because a lot of this work was held by the Connected Communities team,
Yes.
which under our new staffing structure within council, that has moved, my understanding, into the Customer and Communities group, right?
Yep.
Which we don't have a group manager of at the moment.
Yep.
You're sort of covering everything until those positions, because that's a new role, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So in the meantime, those work streams that the Connected Communities team were carrying, who is responsible or carrying those at the moment?
So I'm acting GM, Customer and Community, and the Connected Communities team has combined with the climate action team, and we've got an acting manager in place, Monique England. She's looking after them and pulling it together, and we've got 2 vacancies, so the team itself needs to be rebuilt, but that's something we're looking at. We're doing that now, so we're in action with that as well. So I'd like to say that we aren't waiting for the new GM to be in place. We are taking action to make sure that the work that Connected Communities has done will continue and will continue to be done. So yeah.
Okay. Because this particular conversation around funding for different organisations probably has sat with that Connected Communities team as the first point of contact. I guess that's where I've got this question coming from, Mr. Chair, in relation to the debate around.
I appreciate the clarity.
Yeah. So I think that's important for this committee to know that change is taking place, and that staff are in process around who picks up those streams and who's responsible. And I assume that group will start to provide us with information as it becomes available from a staffing perspective around that particular work in our community that council does.
Yeah, exactly.
Lovely.
Okay.
I'd like to add 2 things. The first one is acknowledging, Rob, the work you do in that space up in Old Taki, because you've had a personal involvement and connection to that space out of your own pocket for a long time. I do want to acknowledge that. But I will also say I'm the chair of this meeting. Quite simply, I allow for a fairly relaxed approach to things, but please do not mistake that for lack of process. If I need to start applying standing orders to keep this table in order, I will. And I will eject people if I think it's necessary, from my perspective, to run a good meeting. So be warned. I want to keep the nice, relaxed approach to how we go things. But quite frankly, don't think if you're going to start getting into an argumentative position, that's not how this committee is going to work. Okay, just flagging that, guys. Rightio, we're still on members' business. Actually, I think, Rob, you were next. Were you going to comment on... Yep, okay. Lawrence.
I'd just like to raise just another members' business issue is related to the social and community needs assessment that we've talked about. So this is the comprehensive one. It's not the one related to the community centre. Just so this committee is aware, that is something that I continue to be pushing at a staff level as a necessity for our community. So we'll see where that drops out as we move forward.
Some clarity on that. I know the Mayor is very interested in a social needs assessment. Oh, Chris is gone. I was just curious to know whether that sits potentially within the health strategy with regards to a piece of work to be done in that space as part of the health strategy, or is this a piece of work that would fit somewhere else?
So this is probably a piece of work that sits in the strategy part. My understanding from a brief conversation with Chris is that it's potentially a piece of work that will sit around Hamish's stuff with the housing and business needs assessment. We've also done our housing needs assessment previously. This is a broad piece of work that needs scoping, but I think it will inform some of the other conversations that we're having around the space, particularly when you talk about housing and homelessness. There's all that information that needs to feed into that as well, into that comprehensive group. So last year there was a submission from our community and social sector in Kāpiti that came into the long-term plan process just saying that we need that the sector is saying we need that comprehensive social needs assessment work done. And it is a central government work, but they're not interested in doing it. But we need it because otherwise we can't paint the real picture and get the funding that we need into this community from central government if that picture isn't painted.
I appreciate that. It's a bit like with the housing needs assessment that created pathways for us for funding as such. Kathy, it's my understanding, I've heard about this social needs assessment that's been talked about at the Kāpiti Health Advisory Group meetings. As such, it is on the radar, but perhaps...
Health is linked with it, but it's not...
I'm not saying it sits there.
It's way broader than health, because it also links with housing. It's a holistic view of our community fabric, really, and what are the major issues that exist in our community, and what is... So it's a pretty comprehensive piece of work that will link into the health strategy, will link into the housing strategy, etc.
So I guess the advice I'm looking for was sort of looking for is how do we want to capture that as an item to be followed through on? Would that be...
I'm happy just to take that as something that I will continue to keep as something that I can chase as one of my...
Can we perhaps ask for an update on that at the next meeting?
There might be something coming this afternoon.
Man, that's quick. Oh, well, then you'll have something to report back on, won't you?
Yes, potentially. Just wanted to signal that. Yep. Maybe in a brief conversation I might have had at some point, there might be something coming across the table this afternoon in our briefing.
Okay. So just acknowledging that, as far as I'm aware, this is on the radar, and I look forward to hearing what potentially might turn up this afternoon, if not perhaps even a report back at the next meeting, just on where you're at with this. Or perhaps an overview from you of where you perhaps see things are at. I just want to keep it elevated.
That's really what I'm raising it as an item of members' business, is just in the same way that our esteemed comrade Wilson. Esteemed.
You're the steam.
Is raising the one about the CAB. I'm raising this one. So Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, look, I do pose the question to the table. Do we want to be capturing these items in a sort of an action list as a follow-up list as such? Lawrence? Nothing being held as such, but again, it's just keeping those things elevated until we can actually close them off or something.
I think probably in this committee we've got people who've all got our passions and our areas of focus and interest, and so I think I don't really want to create a matters under action or a ongoing tick off list of stuff, but I think it's probably an opportunity in this space, at least for you as chair, that you're holding some sort of an idea of who's carrying passion for particular areas.
Look, I'm the first person to talk to being champions in areas, Rob, from your perspective as your urban panel and housing scenario, and having everyone align themselves, Kathy in health and other things, having people line them up in areas of council that they can champion, I fully support, because then you've got that follow through. With regards to that, and it'll be good to just touch base and report back. So happy to just hold that as chair for now, and just touch on the members' business at future meetings.
So I mean, under the previous training, they had portfolios.
We did.
And I'm not suggesting that, because I actually think there's power in a group of people holding information and advocating.
I agree.
And a committee, that I think that's our role as a workforce committee, is to advocate and to carry it together as a team, not just one person. But sometimes someone has a passion for it, so they're into it every day. And I think there's an opportunity here under members' business, maybe for us to provide updates to the team, so that we can all carry it together, if you like. Does that make sense?
Yep, that's what I was alluding to. It's just a wording thing with regards to how we capture it.
Great,
If we
thanks.
perhaps look at that at our meeting, that'd be great. We'll discuss that when we catch up with officers and how we capture that as such. Johnny?
Yeah, I'm just sort of, I guess the committee will remember that I gave a bit of an update on Kāinga Ora with the...
Sorry, Johnny, can I ask you to speak into your speaker a bit more, if
Okay,
that's all right?
So regarding the Raumati Kāinga Ora development, you would recall that I mentioned that the community board in Raumati had created a community liaison group. There hasn't been any further meetings with Kāinga Ora, but I just thought I'd update the committee with somebody has spoken to Kāinga Ora, and they have said they're revisiting the due diligence reporting requirements for this public housing project to ensure appropriate alignment with new cost benchmarks and procurement approval processes. So you can read into that whatever you like.
Can I just confirm, Johnny, there's a community working group
Yes.
in relation to this.
Yeah.
You're obviously on it.
I'm on that community liaison group, but we haven't met since it was formed since the last meeting we had last year. There was going to be a meeting earlier this year, but there's basically been no sort of further developments with Kāinga Ora. So apart from that sort of comment there, so there's nothing really to add except that they're sort of revisiting the due diligence.
Is there a councillor involved in that working group, or is it yourself as the representative at the moment?
I think Sophie may be on there, I'm not sure.
Okay. If you ever get caught short for a space for a meeting, obviously the key to space, please keep that at the back of your mind as well. I think which can be sorted. Thanks for the update, Johnny. Has anyone got anything they'd like to add to that? Nigel? Hands off, Nigel.
Right, there we go. Yeah, so one of the concerns around that particular development, well, let's assume it goes ahead. That what you've just said sounds like code for it's not going to, but let's assume it does. One of the concerns that was raised, I think Kim raised it as well, was were they able to give any assurances that these houses were going to be made available to people from Kāpiti, as opposed to just coming off a list from somewhere? I think that was one of the concerns, is that people would be, they'd just get their list and people could be coming from anywhere. And there were a whole bunch of reasons why. I think Kim, again, I'll just keep quoting Kim actually, about people getting dislocated from whānau, from a whole bunch of things, right? their own social networks. So was that part of a conversation with them at all?
They don't have to pay a development fee. Kathy's got it.
Oh, I'm on now. Yes, so that was part of the conversation with them, as well as sort of, and the group has sort of been set up also to sort of look at all the other wraparound services that can actually be sort of provided once it does get established, if it gets established. But I'm suspecting, with the high cost that they paid for the property and the geotech requirements there, that there might be some difficulty in building on that site. But you never know with Kāingaora.
No, I appreciate you keeping us updated in that one as well. I'll come to you a second. Kathy, are you talking in relation to this particular conversation, or is it something different?
Well, I could make a comment on
You're more than welcome to make a comment on it. Yep.
well, I mean, we've just heard this morning how we've got people who are homeless. So I think that Kāingaora needs to be building something in Kāpiti.
It's a very good point, Kathy.
It's we can't have it, but we can't have it both ways.
I just note that one of the recommendations that we just agreed to was forming a meeting with ministers, Kāingaora, etc. That would be a vehicle for that. And I think what I referred to is this people in this table moving more into stronger advocacy roles in those spaces, which can be facilitated with the relationships that council officers have been building. I didn't see much of that in the last triennium. So I'm quite excited that we can actually start getting into the meaty issues, if you like, and actually go to bat for our community face to face with these people and haul them over the coals, if I want to be a way of putting it, because we need to see some action there. We've got the information, we've got the statistics, so we need delivery.
Yeah. Am I allowed to talk about something else now?
No, I'll just go to Kim. Kim.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yep, Kim.
Kia ora. So this conversation has been happening for a very long time, and it's coming from all angles of the community. And I think the first thing we need to do is we need to understand how that happens, because I believe there's some national policies involved, and we've had these conversations with Kāingaora for a very long time about how we can push back on that. So if we can push back on a collective basis, but first we need to understand how that process works. Because we hear what I hear is a lot of Kāingaora building the houses, why can't our people go in there? Well, there's a whole process that sits behind that. So I think if you go and push, say, we just want our people in there, all that's going to happen is they're going to push back on their process. So we've said it to them before, their process needs to change, how they do this needs to change, and that affects them internally nationwide. So it's a bit more than let's just beat the drum. We need to actually have something to back that up. And if we're all saying the same thing, that's great, because we have those inherent problems down in Otaki. But it's not, I don't think it's going to be as easy as getting them to the table and saying, we want you to put so-and-so in there. So I think we need to do a bit more behind the scenes before we're having those conversations. Otherwise, we're wasting our time.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, we need to take a constructive approach rather than just bitching and moaning, so to speak. Otherwise, we won't get results. Yep. Kathy.
Thank you. Lawrence pushed my button and reminded me, and as this is a health and wellbeing committee, I'd like to know where the Indoor Sports and Recreation Centre feasibility study is at, and where is it? Because I know it's been done or doing or whatever. So that should perhaps be. Yes, you did.
Kathy, just
where is it? And what's
hang on. Yeah,
happening?
just for clarity, what you're wanting to do is know where the report is for the proposed stadium.
Feasibility
Oh, the
study.
feasibility?
Where is it?
Yep. Hang on. Sonia, you care to answer?
Oh.
No, it is done actually, Kathy, and maybe we can report on it next time or table it for next time.
That would be excellent.
Would that be right?
Yeah, I'm dying to see it.
Unsurprisingly, very briefly, it showed that we need one.
I know we do. I know we do.
But we can absolutely speak to that more next time.
Awesome.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much.
That's right.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Lucky the microphone was off. Right, is there anything that anyone else would like to bring up to discuss as a point with this group? Kim, anything from your end at all? Nope. Look, I don't have anything to add to the conversation today. I think it's been a good meeting actually. We've been made aware of a very serious situation, which will lead to more pressures on already overburdened systems if it's not addressed, and other areas that actually really tie into that equation as well, with the Citizens Advice Bureau and the Age Concern people. The work that, just think about the work that those two agencies and that person does. And if they go, what impact that's going to have to our social structure, which is significant. Like I said, an exciting part for me for the coming year is the advocacy role that we have in this committee, and pushing up the food chain with regards to getting things done. And I actually think with the some of the officers that we now also have on board, that we've got some very good pathways and will develop effective plans in that space. Taking on board what Kim talked to, that's not a case of, I don't want to waste anyone's time by going and having a whinge about something. I want all meetings to be constructive with an outcome that we're trying to get sorted for our district, and make sure we do our homework when we go in, so that any argument that's put to us we can fold back. But also we need to potentially find allies in this space as well. As Kim's pointed out, the situation with the homelessness, that's a hot one for me. Again, the word no-brainer springs to mind, but any change in policy would more than likely need to be a national policy change with regards to an approach, and I can't see any reason at all why we can't spearhead that conversation, or that mahi, if you like, that needs to go into making that change. And I have some cunning plans in that space that I would like to discuss with certain people a bit further on. I look forward to reporting back in that space as well. So saying that, Kim, would you perhaps grace us with a closing karakia? Would be much appreciated.
Kia ora tātou, kia tātou katoa, te atapai o tō tātou areki o ihu karaiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu aki awini.
So thank you very much for your attendance today, guys. I like good, robust conversations. And I've got full confidence in our team as we move forward that our little workhorse committee is going to get stuff done. Other than that, look forward to lunch shortly, and seeing what's going to turn up at our briefings this afternoon, which could be very, very interesting and very, very surprising. We'll see you all in 6 weeks' time.